Welcome, everyone. I'm Coach Nesci from Shooting School Basketball, and you are listening to Meet Your College Hoops Coach. We chat with college coaches to get you an inside view of colleges and their basketball programs. We've got a really great show for you today in Division III basketball. First, as a player at the University of Rochester, then he was an assistant coach at Washington and Lee, followed by returning to his alma mater and an assistant coach at the University of Rochester. And the last 11 seasons now at Mount St. Mary College as the head coach. Is that correct, Coach?
You got it. You got it all. You got my bio spot on. You got it, Coach.
Great. Coach, if you could start out and just kind of give us a brief description of Mount St. Mary College.
Yeah, no, I mean, we're a small liberal arts college, located in Newburgh, New York, right up the Hudson River, right off the thruway. So, we're about 1,600 to 1,700 undergrads, on campus. So it's a small campus. It's an intimate campus with everything. And I mean, we have a population, as we talked about, 1,600, 1,700, and the majority of our kids kind of fit into three major academic categories. Our biggest three majors at the college are kind of nursing and pre-med, and then education and business. That's kind of what we're really known for in our school, and obviously being located just 45 miles north of New York City, with all the internship possibilities that we have and create, especially in those fields, it's a great opportunity. So, that's kind of who we are, and that's again just the little bio of the college and some of the majors that we look for in students. But it is a small campus, and I know we'll probably get more in depth into what makes it special and all that. But I mean, it is definitely the feel, the community. It is a community, family oriented campus where if you want to be anonymous, this is not the place for you. Again, everyone's going to know who you are. The professors are going to know you by name, but I think that's a good thing because you do get that individual attention at our college. And I think that's what a lot of people, when they come to our college, that's what they're really looking for, that transition where they're going to get that individualized attention where they're not just a number. And that's, a place in Mount St. Mary where you can definitely feel special.
Great. And so, Coach, as a college, not speaking yet specifically, even though it may be similar or the same, as a college, where do the students come from? Is it just the New York area or beyond?
I mean, it is regional. I mean, the majority of our population is probably within a 2 to 3 hour radius, all around the tri-state area. But I mean, we have, we go out, it's mostly on the East Coast. But I mean, we got players from Virginia, DC, Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania. So, I mean, it's the surrounding states. We're not going national. We're not getting a lot of kids from California or Texas, and all that. So, but probably a good 3 to 4 hour region where it is very diverse within that. But again, we do have a very heavy populated area in this tri-state area. So there's a lot of people in there, but, mostly regional.
And are the students all on campus, or do you have commuter students as well that attend the school?
Yeah, I mean, we do have both. I think when the school first originated, we didn't have dorms on campus way back in the 70s. So, it was more of a commuter school. And then now, obviously, we have plenty of dorms. So it's the majority of it is residential. I'd probably say 75 to 80% of the population is residential. And even that 20%, even though they're labeled commuters, a lot of them are some like my upperclassmen, some seniors who are living off campus right next to campus, and
Right.
have lived on campus for their 3 years, because at our college, the school requires housing for 3 years. It's guaranteed for all 4 if you want to live on campus, but required for 3 years. So their 4th year, they can live off campus. And obviously a lot of seniors do, and they're considered commuters, even though they're not technically commuting, but they're just off campus. So the majority, the true feel of campus is a residential campus.
Great. So getting a little bit then towards the recruiting side of things, Coach, when you look at Mount St. Mary's, if you're talking about your school, what is unique about it, and when you compare it to other schools, I guess in your conference or competitor schools, meaning schools you may recruit against, what uniqueness is there about Mount St. Mary's, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of touched on it earlier. I think it's very intimate. I mean, it's It's the community feel. I mean, it isn't a gigantic campus. You know, I know when you worked at NYU, I mean, the Kohl Center was probably just as big, where the land that it was on, or the former Kohl Center now, where it was, you know, I mean, it's half the size of our campus. I mean, we don't have 25 million academic buildings. We have 3 or 4. We have our dorms. We have our athletic facility. So from one end to the other campus is a 10-minute walk, you know, and you've explored from one end to the other. And for some, that might seem small, but once you get to campus and you really see the layout and the feel, I think that's what makes it unique. I mean, obviously we're right on the Hudson River. You know, the views are beautiful. Seeing the campus is cool. But again, once you get on campus, I think that's what everybody, when they leave campus and when they've been there for the first time, they truly get the feel of, as I say, what makes us special and unique is that everybody here wants you to succeed. Everybody cares. As I say, they're going to know who you are. They're going to be like, hey, great game last night. I saw it. Hey, don't worry about it. Hey, we'll see you in class later on. Remember, we got that internship. I want to kind of talk you through. Let's go to the Career Center and make that happen. What professor is going to do that at many campuses? But, you know, that's where when you are going, you know, when you're always on campus and it is intimate, you run into these people and we're very friendly. And I think that's what people say. It's like, wow, everybody is just friendly and has this community feel. And it's like, yeah, that's what we're about. You know, and again, and if you want to be anonymous and if you don't like that, then yeah, this is not the place for you.
Right.
But I think a lot of people do like that, you know, the caring, the individual attention that you can get, you know, at a small school like us. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen at all the schools that I've worked at, that I've been around. It's usually the people within inside the buildings that make it special. And I think we have some of the best here at the Mount.
Yeah. So it would be, I would believe, key for you that you're able to get these prospects to come and make overnight visits so they can spend some quality time and up close with the campus and obviously with your program.
Yeah, I think multiple visits to campuses. We encourage kids, even when they come to our campus, we say, go elsewhere. You need to compare. You need to see. There's a lot of great options out there. It's just, as we always say, it's about finding the perfect fit. The only way you know the perfect fit is to truly, because guess what? Everybody looks good on the internet. Every coach sounds good on the phone. Okay. I mean, it's highlights that's going to be the case, but until you get to campus, until you meet the people and truly get the feel of the campus, then you won't really know if this is the right fit for you. And, you know, coming to campus earlier on where it's just us and meeting for 2 hours and giving you a campus tour, you know, that's going to be a lot different than after the year where maybe in the spring, where we've gotten to know you for 6-7 months, where we've seen you a bunch, where you've come to campus and now you do an overnight visit, which is a very important part. And for us in the overnight, you've heard enough from the coach. We want you to just be with the players to really, you know, again, get to know them, but also get a true feel of what it's like to be a college student at Mount St. Mary campus. Only way to do that is visits, and then overnight visits where there isn't a coach or there isn't anybody kind of guiding you. It's just going, here, this is what we're about. You know, that way you can't hide anything, you know, and I think there is nothing to hide when you do things right and you have a good program and a good culture and a great college. So we kind of say, hey, this is what we're about. And if it's right for you, get that feel. And so it is very important. You know, those are all the steps of the process, the recruiting process. But really coming in before, you know, multiple times to each campus to get the best feel for it.
Right. And so, Coach, we get more in depth then about, you know, recruiting. Obviously, we're trying to put together top-notch programs, and that certainly involves having some quality. So in your program, Coach, what do you look for as regards to the quality of player, you know, in your point guards, in your shooting guards, or your post players?
Yeah.
What is it that you look for?
Yeah, I mean, I look for the same thing. I mean, as you know, I mean, it's kind of positionless basketball nowadays, Coach. It's a little bit different than when we played against each other. And you coached against me, you know, having strict forwards and centers do certain things, and point guards and shooting guards, where now we're guards and just basically basketball players with all that. So, I mean, we are looking for a lot of different things. I mean, obviously, every coach is going to say, well, you need to have talent. You know, there has to be a talent level aspect, which is true. You know, that's the first thing that kind of catches our eye is, okay, do we think you can play at this level? Now, after that, that's just the initial step, probably 1% of our, you know, decision making. Now, the rest of it is trying to find out about that player. And I think the biggest things that we look for, as you say, quality is more about their character. You know, again, are they disciplined? Are they hardworking? Are they good students? Are they good people? Again, are they doing things the right way? Because in our program, we're always going to do things the right way. And when you don't, that's when you're going to be disciplined, or that's when you're going to be held accountable at all times. A lot of students might not want that. But as just like parents, we have to hold them accountable. And so for us, I think taking in the big picture, learning about who they are as people, getting to know them on the court, seeing them in their best times and also their worst times, how are they dealing with adversity? That really shows us and gives us a better insight of what I'm looking for in quality. It's like, again, our recruiting class this year, looking at it, say, hey, I think we have some really high character kids with high IQ, with high character, and they're talented. Well, I'm very excited about this group. Certain groups maybe doesn't have as much talent, or maybe doesn't have as much character. I mean, obviously we're searching for the perfect player all the time, but we can't really, there is no perfect player. But again, that's where I think finding what is most important to your program. Everyone is different, has different strengths, the highlights that they're looking for. And again, for us, I think it's really accountability, character, discipline. Are they a good student? Because, last time I checked, it's, the basketball, the work in the classroom translates to the work on the basketball court. My best players are my best students, again, because that usually shows they're hardworking. They're going to want to improve. They're going to want to learn. They're going to want to be taught, so they can be the best that they are going to be, become in as a student and as an athlete. So, those are the biggest things that we really look for, at least that I look for. I've seen kids who are very talented and I just don't like their character, and we just say no.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I'd rather have a kid with less talent and has these other intangibles, the character, the hard work, the discipline. We're going to get more out of that kid. That player is going to give us more, not only on the basketball court, but in our community, in the college, and is really going to get the most out of their education. That's what we want, and then when you have talent on top of that, that's when you become very good.
Right. So during the season, Coach, what can you say about the challenges that the program, the student athletes and the coaches kind of, at the helm, what are the challenges that the student athletes face in balancing the academics and then also their athletic responsibilities?
Yeah, I mean, it is tough. I mean, I think everyone struggles, especially freshman year. I think is the toughest semester. I know I struggled my freshman year as a student, as a student athlete, just balancing how much you actually need to do. The work off the court is a lot more than in high school, and that goes for the educational part, that goes for the athletic part as well. So I typically find that, it's just like everything. I mean, it's a little bit different. They kind of have to get their feet wet, and we help them adjust the best we can. But once season hits, then it's completely different again. Now all of a sudden you're really getting into the basketball side of things where there's still, it's like, hey, we got our first scrimmage and I have a midterm and I got to learn the scout and I got to put in all this work. And it's like, yep, that's, you kind of have to do it all. And learning those time management skills are the most difficult. And that's something that we really try to instill and try to help them with having required study halls, meeting with what we call our academic coaches, which are just basically personal advisors. Every school calls them something different. We call them coaches at the Mount. So this way that they can stay on top of their academics, where if they are struggling, they can talk with them, they can contact me, and we can kind of nip the problem in the bud before it really gets to be a major problem. But, kind of coordinating both the stuff. And I think the biggest challenge that freshmen, I mean, all players in season, but especially freshmen don't really realize is once we get in the season, we start playing, is the preparation for our opponents. The scout, the mental aspect, as much as we spend an hour and a half to 2 hours in the court each day, we're spending an hour mentally in the classroom, in film room, dissecting things, really adjusting. And I think, especially newcomers don't really know the mental side of the defensive schemes, the offensive schemes, knowing, it's going to be tough learning our offense, but you also have to learn an entire other program's offense in 1 day or 2 days, right. Execute it, then delete it, and then do it again the next day for another opponent. And I think that mental drain, they just didn't realize, like, oh, I thought we were just playing basketball. They're like, that's fine. It's like, yeah, that's the easy part. The mental side of things, and then also how much they have to put in, and then at the same time, staying on top of their academics. So I think it is a balancing act, and it does take some time, and that's why we try to help guide as much as possible without hand-holding them through the process, because they have to do it on their own. That's what they're here for, to grow up, be an adult. So, we help with that. But I think that's the biggest challenge and some of the toughest things that I see that our players face in season is just how much more mentally that they have to put in basketball. It's a whole nother class. And then,
Right.
and that's what it's another major, you know?
Yeah.
So, that's what we really do. And I think that's the toughest adjustment for them, that I've
Yeah.
seen.
Well, and so, and I know this year is atypical because of what we are facing
Yeah.
these days. But what would be a typical off season for your players?
Yeah, I mean, typically, like I said, if everything was normal and we would be back and I'd be on campus right now doing this. I mean, we usually right after campus, we give about a month where it's just kind of, hey, you've been doing stuff all summer. You've been here. You've been working hard in the preseason, October 15th till March, hopefully beyond into March. It's a long season. So then usually we give a couple weeks off. Spring break is usually mid-March for colleges. So then when we come back, we have about a 5 to 6 week period typically before the end of the semester where you're actually with your teammates. And that's where I say, hey, this is where you got to get some work done for these next 6 weeks where you can still work with your team. So, again, we'll talk about the season now that it's kind of passed and we can all take a step back and really look at it more maturely and go, hey, this is what we did well. This is what we need to do better as a group and individually. So we'd have individual meetings to kind of go over that just to know, hey, this is what we want you to work on, and just also talk out, this is where we see, this is what we need to do for the future. And then obviously those guys for those 6 weeks, they'd be trying to play pickup just like they did in the preseason. They'd have their lifting program and try to get it in when they can with everything. So, I mean, that's really, playing with your team, because then in the off season in May, June, July, August, when you're at home, everyone goes back to Virginia, goes back to DC, goes back to Pennsylvania. So you're not with your teammates over the summer. So that's where then now we will give them an individual workout, again, for their specific skill set, their weight program. And then we say, hey, all right, you got 3.5 months. This is the time to improve as a player. You have all of it. Again, we can't require anybody to do anything. So we say, hey, this is how you can get better. If you do it, you'll see the results. If you don't, well, you'll also see the results. So, in the off season for our players, that's typically then they come back in August and, they start up with their team again, doing preseason stuff, getting ready for the season on October 15th. So, I mean, it's a lot more mental things, talking with the team, as a coaching staff, talking with the players and getting them on the same page, is really until May. And then we'll start looking at I've already started looking at film now since, we don't have much to do. We're not on campus every single day with everything, but, just again, looking at film, ways to tweak things, different offenses, depending on now that we have coming back and coming in, we have to adjust and run different things. As our philosophies will stay the same, but the packages that we run will be different depending on what we have. So, it's always busy. It's 365, as you know.
Speaking to that, as regards to the coaching staff, I was going to ask you as well then, Coach, at this time of the year, besides the players, what about yourself and your staff? What are you guys usually doing, from now, through the summer?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, once the season ends, it's really focusing on recruiting. Again, obviously we didn't have it this year with our overnight visits, with our last recruiting bits with families where they're coming back up and talking with them all. So we're doing that just like this via Zoom and over the phone and staying in constant contact with them while everyone's making their decisions. But then, yeah, in the summer, I mean, May, it would really, as you know, I mean, the recruiting cycle, and that's what has really affected us, and I think has really affected college basketball, is recruiting. Because as you remember, our major recruiting time is mid-April till August 1. That's when the majority of the summer AAU events all over the country, where there's 20 million tournaments going on in every city and every single day if you want. So we'd be really kind of getting ready for our recruiting calendar, focusing on the next year's class. So right now it'd be 2021, getting in touch with our juniors and saying, all right, we got to come see you play. We need to evaluate you to see if you're a right fit for us basketball wise before we kind of go through the process, which is a long, lengthy process. So, we'd really look at that on the recruiting schedule and start that recruiting cycle. And then as I kind of talked about, we'd really look at us and self-evaluate, go through all of our games, our tape breakdowns. We break down every single game. As you know now, with all the, editing systems out there and Synergy and Stats, you can get any statistic you want, that you need to see to try to make your team better and more efficient. So we'll look at that. We'll look at what we did and talk about tweaking certain things, and a lot of X's and O's talk, because again, besides recruiting, that's what we're really kind of focusing on is, all right, that's the time to do it. Because once the kids are back on campus, it's full time, where we got to take care of them and the academic. There's a lot of other things besides just basketball that we got to deal with.
Yeah. So, Coach, with what we're facing today, are you in a kind of a hold, like you're still waiting to hear from prospects on their decisions, I would imagine, right? And is that coming up first?
Yeah, I mean, it's May 1st. So for our college, we're rolling admissions. So we don't have a May 1st deadline. I mean, they have a May 1st deadline to secure a deposit. But again, especially with what's going on now with coronavirus, I think a lot of colleges, including us, have extended that date. So we are still waiting. I mean, we do have commitments of people that have come in before, and we're still waiting on a few, as you know. I mean, usually the May 1 is still the unofficial deadline, even if you're rolling admissions, as you know, since everyone's usually making their decision by that point. So, it's narrowed down where we have a few players left that are on the board that we're just, waiting on their decision with financial aid and all the other aspects they're taking into account with all that. But yeah, it's different because I know a lot of kids wanted to come up and do another overnight visit to really get that, seal the deal or get that final phase of the recruiting, which is very important. And we can't, obviously, no one can do that. So it is a little challenging with that. But again, same thing with, as you said, kind of in a hold for next year's recruiting class. We don't really, we can't, hey, let's plan a visit. Hey, let's see you play. Everything's up in the air, dealing with this.
Right.
And, rightfully so, we got to deal with this. So, we'll eventually, just like everything, we'll figure it all out, when it comes
I think, Coach, from my vantage point, I think the only thing that we can do as coaches now is strategize for a myriad of possibilities. So yeah, I would, that my thinking, have a few game plans in place so that when things get back to a new normal, you can hit ground running. So, but I'm sure that's something right now.
Well, I mean, it's as I always say, that's what we as coaches do. We plan for every scenario. It doesn't matter what, for every team, you're like, all right, what if this happens? What if this? And that's our job as coaches, to think of the unexpected. You have 85 million possibilities going through your head of how every scenario can play out in real time, and as a basketball coach. So it's the same thing with us. We're all waiting on, what the government says, what the NCAA says. We might have shortened seasons. We might have a full season. We could be back on campus in August like nothing happened, and it might be different. We have no idea. So, yeah, I mean, that's all we can do is prepare the best that we can. And luckily, since I've been doing this now as a head coach for 11 years and going into my 12th season, I kind of have, we have our preseason down. We don't have to tweak that too much, so we kind of have our culture, already embedded. It just might be the timing and if we're on campus and all those, which obviously nobody knows at this point. So it'll be different, but yeah, I'm thinking of every single strategy there possibly could be. If we come back and, hey, we might have to do more film or this, we'll adjust. And I think that's what I always tell my players is, as a college coach, as a college player, you have to adjust and adapt to every situation very quickly, just like in life. So I think we'll be ready. We'll be prepared for it. But that's all we can do is be prepared.
I'm sure you will.
For us.
Yeah, Coach, I have one last question for you. If you think about your 11-year tenure now, what comes to mind about your best season, and what made that season so special?
I mean, they're all special in unique ways. I thought this year was special. If you look at our record, you'd be like, well, why is this year special? But, again, how groups come together and maybe overachieve or achieve something that you didn't know was possible. We were in the top 20 this year in steals in the country. We were, top 20, top 30 in defense. And I'm going, okay, we're a small group. How did that happen? It was a great, successful year in that regard. So, I mean, it's kind of tough to nail down one. But if I had to,
good thing. That's a
I would say, I think it was my third year. We won the ECAC championship that year. It was a school record for wins, and it was a combination of the group that I inherited as a coach. It was my third year, so we had some players, from the previous, coach, And a lot of guys, you know, it just took them buying in, because obviously I was going to be a lot different. Any coach is going to be a little bit different with different philosophies, and saying, hey, you know, accountability and discipline, and me being a big, tall guy and not very quiet, you know, them getting used to, you know, hey, wow, this guy's going to get on me, making sure I'm doing the right thing all the time. He does not take a break. And it's going, yeah, that's how we're going to be successful, guys. So those upperclassmen really bought in to me, and we had a great relationship. And then, you know, we brought in my first recruiting class after year one, and they were very, very talented. And so to kind of see the young, the old, you know, my guys, old guys buying into our culture and what we wanted to try to accomplish. I think we were 6-4. You know, I always challenged them. We played some very tough teams. We're out in California playing Claremont Mud Scripts, who was top 10 in the country at that point, you know, and they kind of put it to us. And, you know, we had some, you know, it wasn't easy, but it was some soul searching, and all of a sudden it just clicked from that point on, and we had a great run. You know, we won the ECACs, which was our first in program history. And, you know, as I said, I'll always remember cutting down the nets. You know, it's a great way to end the year. You don't end the year too many times when you're doing that. So, you know, you got to relish them when you have them. So I definitely did. And, you know, going back into the locker room and the guys throwing ice and water all over the locker room and slipping in this tiny locker room at Richard Stockton. I think it was a little bit too much ice. I think I had a couple cuts on my forehead from the ice. I'm like, I don't care, guys. Good job. You know, I mean, it was you know, everyone's jumping around and had a great time. So, you know, I think that was, you know, that group itself, and, you know, that season was very, very special, because it finally said, hey, yeah, we can compete at the elite level in this region. We were regionally ranked, I think, top 3 or top 4 the entire, you know, year. We've never been regionally ranked. And it's like, hey, we can accomplish this if we do things the right way. And that's kind of what we've done, you know, from, you know, they kind of established that precedent for the rest of our classes to follow. You know, and I think it was huge for us, because that really did set it. You know, that's how our program's been for the last 11 years, you know, with that culture of just, hey, we can do this. We got to band together and get the most out of it. And, you know, our guys have. So it was a very satisfying year. And that's the best memory so far. I want to cut down some more nets so that I can have some ties with that, you know, and be like, oh, well, I cut down this net, I cut down that net. They're all great. But, you know, that seems to be the one, if I had to choose one.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will, Coach.
I hope.
That's great. You know, just having the opportunity to talk some basketball, obviously for me is great too, because, you know, I'm missing it as well. So this has been great for me, Coach. I appreciate you spending some time and giving us some insight into your program. Is there anything, Coach, or anywhere you'd like to point any of our listeners to regarding your websites or anything to get information on your program?
Yeah, of course. You know, I'll take the free plugs. So, but yeah, no, I mean, all of our information is up on Mount St. Mary College, msmc.edu, and then on our athletics page, which is msmcknights.com. As you know, you will find all the information that you need on those websites about the program, about me. You know, I'm sure that's where you know, listed off all my bio stuff, taking a read off the internet. Even though you do know me pretty well, and you know my history. I'm sure you can. I'm sure you could recite it. You know, you don't need it. You know, so you've known me for so long. But yeah, no, I mean, definitely check out those websites, and it'll give you a lot of insight and information into our program. And, you know, if there is interest, there's always, you know, as I always tell players, if you're interested in the school, don't wait for them to contact you. You know, we go out and we see summer events, but we do miss people. There's 2 coaches among 100,000 players. Sometimes we miss people. So I always tell people, if you're interested in the college, reach out to that coach. You know, again, all the information, the recruiting form that's on our website, or even just the email, phone call, anything. As long as we get information, then we can learn more about you. We can really do research to see if you're a best fit for us athletically and academically to really start the recruiting process. So I think that's the biggest thing I like to tell people is don't wait. You know, don't wait. Go, you know, be proactive, just like everything, you know, really send it out. And then the coach will tell you, hey, yes, I think you're a great fit, or no, I don't. At least then you know.
Coach, you have Instagram for your program?
The college does. I don't. Like I'm probably behind a little bit. I don't have our own Facebook page and Twitter and all that kind of stuff. I don't have a Coach Cad page on Twitter. I don't know if everybody needs to know every single one of my thoughts. I really don't think I'm that interesting. But Yeah.
Okay.
You know,
Correct.
so but yeah, I mean, the school does have our, the athletic website. They do post stories and they have everything. But I don't have a specific run site. I probably should, but I don't know. It's just not me. I'd rather have people contact me, come to me personally, come to campus. So
Okay.
this way I can talk to it a little bit more, insightful. I think that's a little bit better than reading stuff off the internet.
Whatever works.
That's right.
Coach, thanks again so much for coming on, and good luck with the recruiting. And I hope when things change that we're able to see each other again and not only do this by computer.
No, yeah, I hope so. And I really appreciate it and taking the time and what you're doing. I mean, I think it's fantastic to kind of get the word out to everybody. I mean, you've been a Division III coach and in the Hall. Are you in the Hall of Fame yet?
I'm not in any Hall of Fames yet, but I just look at that as a good thing because maybe they don't think I'm old enough yet. So
that's a good thing. That's a good thing. You're still too young to get in there. You're not so far off. But I mean, I think it's good to just get the word out, as you said. I mean, I think this is very informative, and I do appreciate you doing this. And it's always great catching up with you. And as you know, I mean, we go back, 20 plus years from when you recruited me, when you coached against me, and all that, and still talk and ask about my parents. They did say to say hello. I know every time we talk, you ask about them, and I always relay it. So I told them I was doing this. They're like, "Oh, tell Coach Nesci I said hi." So they say hello.
Great. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing you. Like I said, hopefully we'll see you at a game, and we'll definitely catch up, or go to a nice Italian joint. I'll get you a good meal.
All the best.
All right, you too. Stay safe out there.
Bye-bye.